Is my camera image gone away?
Yeah, your camera is apparently cutting out because we get
Hmm.
this. Oh, that looks like the image that you have when you don't have video on.
Right. I gotta find out why my video went off.
Did you break
Huh.
the camera, Chuck?
Yeah, I did. I guess so.
Okay, I guess.
So,
Um,
welcome everybody to Chips and Grits this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. And for those of you that watch this later online, we appreciate it. You're always invited to join us. This morning, the topic is what have we got in terms of efficiencies or things you're doing in your shop these days? Anybody want to start out?
Yeah, well, seeing that I've got to leave early, let me start with one thing that I know I use all the time because a complaint I hear about the vacuum chuck is getting it centered on the vacuum chuck. Now, the way I have uh, solved that problem most of the time is, oh, there, Chuck's back.
There's
Thank
Chuck.
you. Yeah.
And the way I've solved that is I was able to buy an adapter for the Powermatic Live Center. You know, you take off the cone and there's a 3/4 inch thread. And Craft Supply had an adapter that went from 3/4 inch female to 1 1/4 inch male. So I put my chuck on the adapter, I slide that into my tailstock. Let me back up. I take the chuck and the piece off of the lathe as a unit and then put it into the tailstock and then just, push it up. And it's pretty much perfectly centered on the vacuum chuck.
Yeah.
Hmm.
See, I've done that. Yeah.
And that really speeds things up because, you're not sitting there playing and playing and playing to try to get uh, the piece centered on the vacuum chuck.
Yeah.
Gary, that's also available just with a Morse taper and the appropriate size, thread size. So we've got
Okay.
one for 1 inch 8 and 1 1/4 inch 8, and it just has a Morse taper on one end, and you put your chuck threaded onto it, and you don't have to have the extra live center for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's even better. But as I said, I bought this years ago. Craft Supply has it. From what I understand, they don't carry it anymore. But
Yeah, Chuck is showing
Chuck is
what
showing
Gary
us.
described.
yeah,
Yep.
and that is just for many things. But that's for one thing that it really works well to get the piece centered on the vacuum chuck.
While we are on that topic, I have a somewhat related item. Where you have a knockout bar, most people probably keep it on the headstock outboard end of the lathe. And then when you do something like all three of you guys have shown and talked about, if that Morse taper 2 gets stuck in your tailstock, then you go to the other end of the lathe to get the knockout bar. And what I've done, because I've been standing in at the tailstock end, working on something like Gary had suggested that I got in a little bit too tight, and I want to take that chuck out or off of the tailstock. I've made a second knockout bar and I keep it in the center of the lathe bed at the tailstock end. It's actually in an extension to the lathe bed, but that way I can reach that with my right hand and it's right below the tailstock to pop it in and knock out the thing that Chuck just showed, or anything that you've got in your tailstock and it gets in a little bit too tight. It's just a simple rod, and I put a knob on it with a golf ball knob on it. And then I made a little sheet metal hanger that bends around the casting on the lathe, in between the lathe beds. And I can just reach down, grab the golf ball, and pull out the knockout bar and knock out the live center. I use it a lot.
Spence, aren't you the one that told me that that would be a good thing to have on the tailstock rather than using the hand crank and putting the force on the bearings?
Yeah, in fact, like it unfortunately, it's my experience that I ended up galling the threads on my tailstock because I was forcing the miters, the tailstock pieces out. I've since stopped doing that, and I kind of cleaned it up, and it's okay. But I personally damaged mine.
I ended up changing one of those at the college for Dean because students continuously did that. They would run that thing up at a high speed. If you run it up to where it just stops and give it a little tap, it doesn't bugger the threads up. But not many people do that. They just wang it in there and away it goes.
The other thing I'd comment for expediency, I think you guys know it doesn't matter, but I use Vicmark chucks. Well, the 120, I have a stub that fits into the 120 quite nicely, so that when I'm turning a bowl, I put the 120 on and the stub in, form the outside and the tenon, and then all I do is take the stub out and put the bowl onto the chuck. It really saves a lot of changing.
You've inspired me, Dave. This is the knockout bar that came with my Nova.
That's it.
Yeah. So I will keep that at my tailstock and stop using my threads to knock out my mortise taper. Thank you for the suggestion. I think that's a great idea.
Where your lathe is out in the middle of the floor, like yours.
Yeah.
You take a little piece of sheet metal and find something on your lathe that you can bend the sheet metal around.
Yeah.
And then drill a hole for your knockout bar.
Yeah, that's great.
Another one, while you're close to that, while we're on the tailstock, for those of you that use a chuck in the tailstock frequently, if you, again, are standing by the tailstock and you got your hands all full of whatever you're doing, and you realize you need to do something and you don't have a chuck key. So you go looking for your chuck key, or I always keep mine just outside of the headstock. I've got hold all of my tools there. But I've gotten a second chuck key and I keep it near the tailstock in one of those magnetic pencil holders. And I think I had some at a meeting 6 or 8 months ago. Spence, I think several of you ended up with one of those for pencils. And I have since found all kinds of uses for those things because they hold a chuck key, chuck wrench, whatever you want to call it. They hold them perfectly. And I've got one on my drill press. My old drill presses had a place to hold those. I just bought a new Powermatic a few months ago, and it has no method of holding the chuck key. So I have one of those, I'll call it pencil holders, and they hold the chuck key magnificently.
Yeah, I use.
It's interesting at the symposium, Emma Cook had a magnet on her pencil, and I actually had to relay to her a question from one of the streaming participants. Where did you get that, Emma? And she said she had a friend who 3D printed them. So I am interested to see where you got the ones that you got, because I think that'd be incredibly handy for a lot of different things.
Just go to go to Amazon. You can buy them in black, or you can buy them in stainless steel.
Okay.
And I can't remember when I bought them; they were super duper cheap. But now I think they're about $1 a piece.
So magnetic pencil holder would be the search.
I have them all over my shop. I'll send you the link for them, Chuck.
Oh, thank you.
And in addition to that, I have a fairly large magnetic plate that sits on my Powermatic, and all of my keys just stick to it. And it's really convenient because I don't have to look for them.
Perfect.
I got the idea from Spence one time, and what I did was I have epoxied some rare earth magnets on the side of my lathe at the headstock end, and they're strong enough that they hold the keys right there, and they're very convenient, within reach, and easy to take off of the magnet, easy to put back on. So, I thank Spence for that idea, but it sounds like it's a little different than having it on the chuck, having the magnet on the chuck. In this case, it's just on the lathe, and it works fine.
The other nice thing about that is you never lose your chuck keys. You don't set them down somewhere.
I use magnets as well, but mine, I take the little tiny magnet that's in the bottom of the electric toothbrushes. When the toothbrush wears out, you can dig that little magnet out, put a couple of those on the lathe, and it's strong enough just to hold the chuck key right there.
I
Now,
bought a box of rare earth magnets through Amazon some time ago. It was something like 30 or 40, a ridiculous number of rare earth magnets of various sizes for a ridiculously low price. So I've got more magnets than I need. If anybody wants a magnet to try this, let me know.
Amazon's got all kinds of small, like dime size, or some of them smaller, magnets that have threads, metal encasement, and then threads on the back of it where you screw in the hooks. And the last time I went in to get some of those, I saw they've got them in different power, grip power now. And I bought some of each of those, and I found all kinds of uses for those, because you can take the hooks. The hooks are kind of like a cup hook kind of curve, and you can take those hooks and straighten them out into an L shape, and works absolutely perfect for hanging lots of things up.
We took those on our cruise with us, and everything on the ship was stainless steel, so they didn't work.
hey, Dave, could you use
and it just got plain old steel.
Dave, could you use one of those hooks and just bend it around, and that could hold your knockout bar on the bottom of the lathe?
You probably could, but the sheet metal trick works, because when I get through using the knockout bar, I feel this this urge of strength or something, and when I take the knockout bar out of the tailstock, I just hit that hole in the sheet metal and kind of give it a flip, and the knockout bar goes down, and the sheet metal provides kind of a shock absorber when my knockout bar hits bottom.
The other thing I was thinking about, that'd be a good place maybe for an eye bolt. You could just drill a hole through and then lock it with nuts on both sides. And then that'd be a good way to hold that knockout bar too, I think.
You know, with the strength of these magnets now, and I mean, you can get them the size of a 50-cent piece that'll hold probably 50 pounds on a shear. With the strength of those things, I would heavily recommend not gluing things on, taping things on, or drilling holes in your tools, because they're so versatile. And after you've used it for a week or a day or an hour or whatever, oftentimes you'll realize you put it in the wrong place. You need to move it over an inch or 6 inches or whatever. So the magnet thing works really good for me, and it's just like Chuck just showed, his Powermatic's all lined up with magnets on the front of it.
And those, I believe, I got them from Wayne Wolf, among other things. Those are old speaker magnets.
Yep. That was one of our real good sources before Amazon came along.
Yeah, that and hard drive magnets.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Those are more work to get out.
Yes, they are. What else somebody got?
One of the things that I've just added to my shop, and I know Dave Madden knows about it because we have been in cahoots with it, was hose joints that are magnets. I have one dust collector, as you guys know, I move from unit to unit, and I've added magnet connections for the hoses, and it is such a pleasure. You just put it in the area, it snaps in place, and you're done. I would strongly recommend it. I just think they are time savers, and it just works so nice. I really like them. So if you're struggling with hoses, that's a good way to go.
Okay. What
We're
else?
going to tell everybody the secret on attaching them.
No, I'll allow you to do that because you're the pro.
Well, don't keep us in suspense, Dave.
Oh, I can't describe it here. I'd have to get a couple of the pieces and show you or draw a picture.
Oh, okay.
But they're simply fixed on your wood lathe. You pretend like your wood lathe is a metal lathe, and you figure out how to chuck the thing in your wood 4-jaw chucks, and then you use your wood tools. And I don't remember what I used. Probably a skew, something with a sharp point on it. Anyway, you buy the parts. Where did we get those, Rick? From
They came from
Woodcraft.
Woodcraft.
And their thought process was awesome. The whole idea, and once you get it modified, I love how they work. I don't use a planer and the sander, the drum sander. I don't use either one of them a lot. So I just have the one hose to a dedicated dust collector that runs those two tools. So I just take it off of one and stick it on the other. And it works absolutely awesome. There's less hose running around instead of having a hose hooked up to each one. And when you're using it, you've got more flow without messing around with gates, opening and closing gates to direct your airflow. I just take the hose off of one and stick it on the other, and the magnetic thing just locks it right in place, and it's very simple. I think Rick got me started looking at that process. And when I bought them, I was really upset with Woodcraft, the way they advertised them, number one. Mm-hmm. And then number two, they lead you to believe you're getting stuff that you don't get. So you have to buy it separately. I don't remember the details on that, but I was upset with that. And then I started trying to put them on, and I was upset with that. So I redesigned it and recut them, and they work absolutely fantastic.
You can get them on Amazon also. My last couple I got from Amazon, and they worked well. And what Dave's talking about is they come in two pieces, a male and a female, and one of them has a flange that goes inside the hose. Well, what we wanted to do was put it over the flange that was on the piece of equipment. So by opening that up, opening the taper up a little bit, you can get them to slide over the flange on the piece of equipment and then make them permanent. And that works out really slick.
And it shortens it, because using their methodology, you end up with adapters and pieces sticking out. So the hose actually attaches to your dust port, probably about, I don't, help me, Rick, probably 3 or 4 inches away from the dust port.
Yeah, if that even.
And the way we've modified them, the magnet attaches basically right at the end of your dust port on the tool. I'm very happy with them. Just
Yeah.
works really slick.
What else?
Well, I will show a couple things I've got going on. Let me flip my camera around. Can you tell I'm turning Paduke? Good. Speaking of magnets, I have my power strip with magnets, and what's plugged into this are all my lights. And so over here, I have one switch that turns off all my lights that are on. So it's all, so when I come to do turning, I just have to one switch and all the lights come on. And then of course my Cindy Drozda one is in here too. This is one of the main things I wanted to show was this is the threads in the Paramedic lathe are 3/8/16. And I was able to find this flexible gooseneck, I think they call it. I think it's about 16 inches long. I found it on Amazon. And that now is my holder for my dust collector. I used to have this big opening, and by having it so big, the velocity was decreased. What I am finding by having this very small opening, I'm able to move it directly where I need it, and with the velocity, I get incredibly good dust collection. And the way I can tell is the filters on my mask are staying clean because all the dust is going in here. So this is, and if you have some other arrangement for your dust collector, just knowing that this is a 3/8/16 thread, having this on here, you might have something else, another light or something you want to put on. The other thing I wanted to show, and this is something that I learned a while ago, but I just did it. Whenever I use my coal jaws, I was always frustrated because I always put these in the wrong spot. So what I have done now is I took about a half hour and I went through, I don't know if you can see it real well. I guess, lights on. There we go. What I did is I spent a half hour and I went through and I marked each of the holes. So there's 4 of these that are marked. So this is the minimum opening that a bowl top would have to have in order to use each of these holes. So if the bowl opening is 5 inches or more, I can use this hole. Then the minimum on the outside, so if I'm going to squeeze, this is the location of each of the pins. So if the outside diameter is 6 inches, I can use that hole. And then I come over here and it's the maximum out and the maximum in. So by having those already marked and measured, it saves me the frustration of putting all 8 of these in, finding that they're wrong and having to redo them. So those are my 2 latest.
That's a good idea.
Related to what Chuck just showed, that having the single switch to turn off all of your LED lights. The brief period that I had the Powermatic lathe of help me, Spence. Spence is gone. Anyway, I made
Jones?
for the back of the Powermatic, and it clamps onto to the lathe bed at the bottom, pretty much where Chuck showed his plug-in on the lathe. And I made a bar, it's tubing that clamps onto that, goes pretty much the full length of the lathe. It puts a switch over on the front of the lathe on the tailstock end to do the same thing, to turn on and off whatever you've got. And then that rod has various plugins along that where you can plug different things in. So you can turn everything on or turn everything off with one switch. If anybody's interested in that, I got rid of the lathe and they did not want the bar, so I have that if anybody can use
The value, I'm sorry, I went to get a cup of coffee.
it.
But what Dave is talking about is that particularly with the Powermatic electronics are always on, even if the power switch is off. So if in the event the lightning strike hits in the area, it'll blow out that unit. And that unit's about $4,000. So what I did in the very beginning is I disconnected the power, put a double pole, double throw switch between the unit and the wall socket. So every time I leave, I hit that switch and it isolates the lathe.
Yeah,
I've done that same thing.
this switch is separate from that one because I was controlling the lights differently than I was controlling when I was not when I was in the room and not leaving the room. I had the switches were side by side. The one to shut off the lathe basically disconnected it from the wall, and then the other one that disconnected all of the peripheral stuff from the wall. And that I had lots of plugins on it. So if you're using an electric sander or any electric tools or any of your electric lights and so on, if any of you have a Powermatic and want to come and look at that, or let me know and I'll bring it to the meeting. But I don't intend to use it.
Well, I have one comment about your double pole, double throw switch. It's a super idea, but you have to make sure before you shut that switch off that the cooling fan on your inverter has stopped blowing before you do that. Otherwise, what will happen is that heat sink in that inverter will overheat. So good idea to shut it off, but make sure that that blower fan has stopped blowing. That's what happened
I
with
think we
Dan
sort of
Hall.
learned that, yeah, Dan Hall burned up his control unit because he would flip the switch and turn off all the power. And
Right.
that's why I know what Rick is referring to there.
Some of those, some of the inverters are so quiet, the cooling fans on them. Mine's fairly noisy, so it's pretty evident that it's working or that it's through cooling and you can shut it off. But some of them run really quiet. and they definitely will overheat.
Bruce, I'd like to add something I recently did that follows into the workshop efficiency. I know production turners have been doing this for a long time, but the other day I set up to turn a bowl and I'm just using 8/4 material and wanted to put a mortise on. I knew I was going to be using a chuck. I had the chuck on the lathe already. And so I put my spur drive in and held it in the chuck to start between centers for my mortise, pop that center out and turned it around. The chuck was already there, didn't have to put it on the lathe, so it saved a few minutes, probably is the most it saved. But again, in terms of efficiency, I know production turners have been doing this sort of thing for a long time. Similarly, a lot of times they will simply have a chuck on the lathe and use the tailstock to push it against the jaws without actually having another a drive spur or anything on there. And there's enough friction holding it against the jaws to allow you to turn it without needing the extra drive screw in there. So a couple of production turner tips that might help save people some time.
It's amazing how little pressure you need to do that. And I don't I don't teach people to do that because if you're not used to your equipment and if you don't really understand how much pressure you need to do different things, somebody might just think that you could throw anything on there and barely touch the tailstock and everything's going to be fine. But if you get used to doing that process that Ken just described, you can save a lot of effort. And you can also do things that ordinarily you can't figure out how to do. If you're just using the face, I'll take a big chuck, either a 120 Vicmark 120 with big jaws, or I'll take the 150 with gigantic jaws and just open them up. And then I can hold like a platter, like you're talking about. Just give it a little bump on the backside and push it up against the headstock and do whatever.
Does anybody use a foam tape on the jaws of their chuck when they want to reverse hold a bowl so that the jaws don't nick the wood?
I haven't, Rick, but I noticed that Nova sells a soft jaw, and apparently those are modifiable. But of course, they're out of stock. But I like the idea of the foam tape because I just did something recently where I threw just some rubber matting in there, and it still nicked the ball.
Yeah, I've even used painter's tape around there just to soften the edges of those chucks so that they don't nick the opening of the bowl.
I've got the soft jaws that I can use. And before that, I replaced the old worn out soft jaws and I drilled out wine corks and used those to hold it. And that eliminated leaving any marks.
Where'd you get your wine corks, Bruce?
I had to save up. It took me, probably 3 days to get 12 of them.
Bosch, incidentally, sells plastic or they look like they were 3D printed jaws. And the purpose that he sells them for are to make sure that the mortise that you made has the right angle on it and that they're going to sit tight in the jaws.
That's
But
right. Yeah.
something like those would work very well because you could get four of them and mount them on your chuck, and that would hold them up without marring the bowl too.
That was Bosch, right?
Trent Bosch, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I actually use that to make sure that I've got it right, and they are helpful.
It's a good idea.
Terribly expensive.
Yeah. He likes
$6.
them. He likes them.
I've got an item to share. I got to see if I can get the right thing up. Howard wanted to be here today, but unfortunately, somebody in Miami scheduled a phone call with him at this hour. And he sent me a little email talking about he's been making a lot of urns lately. And he's got several that come in and he's had to do them on short notice. And he's not all that good. Let me see if I can get, there we go. You're seeing the urns?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talked about he's not that particularly good at getting the joints at the right angles. He said he likes to use ambrosia maple, walnut, zebra wood, sapelli. And so he likes the combination of woods, but he was always struggling to get a good fit. And then he got the lathe mounted sander, and that helps him get the 90 degrees. He does the turn and build method of building up the urns.
Mhm.
And so this saved them a whole bunch of time in terms of doing the building process because the disc sander just fits right on the lathe. And Dean talked about doing something like this, I guess, too, in his last demonstration using a faceplate and a piece of MDF. So, but that's what he's found recently that really helps him and takes a lot of time out of having to make the process and build it up.
Looks like it's got a lot of setup time to it, though. I actually have a Delta 12-inch sander with the base that is 90 degrees to the wheel. And I originally, when I was started doing segmenting, that's what I would use with a guide to make sure that I maintained the angle, and it works pretty well.
What else somebody have?
Incidentally, a group of us went yesterday over to
Oh, yeah.
Yavapai College and had a tutorial on using Woodturner Pro for doing segmenting. And David Kohler did it, and I found it very enjoyable and very informative. I'd be curious to see what I think you were there, Ken, and you were there, Chuck and Steve, what you guys thought of it as well.
Well, I got to tell you, my first thought this morning, Rick, as I was walking toward my shop, I did think about that, how incredible that was. Why didn't we record it?
That would have been good.
I would have watched that over and over. It was so good.
One of the things we found, though, was that in demos like that, it's imperative to have the presenter have a microphone,
Yeah, you're right.
have it amplified.
Yep.
Do you
there was
all
times you
have
couldn't hear it.
Woodturner Pro?
Yes.
Spence,
do.
no, I don't. I don't. And one of the reasons I did want to sit in on that is because I use a different software program, which does a lot of the same things, but I wanted to see what that software did. And I came away knowing that it's probably worth the price to buy it because
Yeah.
it does things in an easier manner than the software I've been using. So if I ever get into segmenting again, I'll probably pick up a copy of that and start using it.
I initially started by using SegPro and found yesterday just one thing that I took away from it, how easy it is to bring something in from 3D design into Woodturners Pro. And Woodturners Pro gives you the advantage to be able to work with different thicknesses of rings that Segmenting Pro does not. I found that enlightening and gave me a whole new respect for Woodturners Pro. And Dave is a master with that. I mean, he's spent a
Unbelievable.
lot of time.
Unbelievable.
He's-
And his creativity and the designs he comes up with are just amazing, which he said he'd be happy to share, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yes, he did.
yeah. I could go back for a phase 2 of that anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah, please.
what we need to do is spend a few minutes or a couple hours working on it and then going back for more.
Yeah, I spent yesterday afternoon working on it and found that so much easier to use based on what I had learned yesterday.
That's great.
Well, you have it too, don't you? You had it for a long time.
Spence,
Yeah.
you've had it for a while too?
Oh, I've had it, I don't know, probably 10 years or more. I don't do the Lamination Pro. I tried it and I if I were to do that, I'd need some tutoring. It's pretty hard.
Yes, it's. I had a very hard time watching what was happening on the computer and being able to visualize that in my mind
Yeah.
Right.
as to how the different pieces when you're switching and changing and flipping and flopping to get them to look like what you want them to look like. I think I was saying to Chuck and the guys yesterday, I think I'm just going to take and glue some wood together and try some of the different cuts to see what you can do with it. Maybe having the pieces in my hand and being able to move them and turn them might help a lot.
Physical touching of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Spence, I'm real comfortable with it. So if you ever get to the point you want to do it, I'd be happy to help you. Same, I mean, anybody.
Okay.
It-
Great.
Yeah,
My experience was doing an Indian blanket
right.
and I just got tired of cutting.
Yeah, there's a lot of cutting and also a lot of waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, the
besides that,
accuracy of your cuts is so important because if
Oh,
you're
geez.
not getting consistent cuts, you're not going to get a consistent image.
Yeah.
and that was what happened with me. I probably spent 3 days doing it and it ended up with something that I wasn't satisfied with.
Yeah.
Spence, were you cutting with a chop saw or with a table saw?
Table saw.
Yeah, for the long strips, you almost have to do that on a table saw. I don't see how you could do it on a chop saw. But if somebody has a day that they want to come over and play around, it would be kind of fun to do it.
Yeah, we could.
Like a Tuesday demo, Mr. Program Manager. Program Director.
Well, you're talking to a fairly small subset of the club here, though, that want to do
Yeah.
segmenting. So
Well,
you have to factor that in. But as Dean said yesterday at the end of the session, there's a potential, and I know there's interest in the room to have a more of a hands-on demonstration so that you can actually see, particularly with the lamination software, it's kind of hard to visualize how you actually cut and reassemble these pieces. So something that would have some hands-on might be an appropriate, maybe not a Tuesday demo, but a specific workshop that if we could use Yavapai College for that, it'd be ideal, because then you could see how the software will tell you what you want it to be, and then you can go out to the table saw and the lathe and see what you actually end up with. So that's something to consider. And again, I would say it's more than just a Tuesday demo. I think that's more of a workshop.
Yeah.
How many did we have yesterday, Ken? I guess we had 10, at least 10.
At least. I was thinking it was more than that.
I think there's 12
No,
or
I-
13.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
counted, I think, 13, maybe 14, including David.
Yeah, without any advertising, that's what, 10% of the club membership, which is pretty decent
Sure.
representation.
I'd tell you, my feeling is just the segmenting pro is worth far more, worth the cost of the program.
Yep.
Before I did that, I did it the traditional way with MDF, and I kid you not, I filled trash cans full of wedges trying to get it, and never did. I ended up doing half and half. Once I got the sled and the program, slam dunk making rings.
It moved it easier. Think you bought yours up at the symposium on a bid, didn't you? Your software?
I
You
did.
know, yeah, I think
Blind
so.
auction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got mine in Albany last year at the silent auction. It's like
Now that was the
$95.
whole suite, was it not?
Yeah, I got all three of them.
Well, there's
Yeah.
four, but you download
Well,
the
all
3D
four.
Pro for free.
Yeah, yeah. So I got all four and had great communication with Lloyd. Hey, while there's a lull, is there a good finish for Paduke to try to preserve the color, or am I just doomed to it'll end up being brown?
I would suggest taking a piece to the side, sand it down to 400, and try tried and true on it.
Oh,
Tried and true is just beeswax, and I don't think it'll
yeah.
change the color.
Well, it's interesting. I did go out and talk to my AI friend, and he said you can't put any oil finish on it. So I think what you just suggested, when I say oil, I mean like probably a polyurethane or a mineral
Yeah,
spirits type of um, is what's going to darken it. But I like the idea of the tried and true. I hadn't thought of that one.
beeswax is. I mean, there's no solvent in it. It's just
Right.
wax, and
Yeah.
for I you can tell I just fell in love with this stuff.
Yeah.
Sold me.
Yeah. Well, the bowl I just did with the Paduke, after I took it to 400 and then the resin and metal ring I took to 1,000, but then I hit it with the Yorkshire grit. It looks finished. It looks completely finished. It is glossy and gorgeous, but it's obviously not terribly protected. So I think the Yorkshire grit may be the way to go.
And then wax on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like
Well,
Spencer's idea to do a little test with that.
Yeah.
I just put tried and true on a walnut bowl. I just finished for empty bowls, but it darkened that walnut significantly. You know, it really changed the color of that walnut. So
Well, the Yorkshire grit definitely made it darker, but it just made it a richer orange. So if you guys haven't tried the Yorkshire grit, oh my gosh,
I have.
it is magical.
Yeah.
Truly is.
Hey, Spence, do you mix anything with your beeswax?
Do I do what?
Mix, is it straight beeswax or do you have a mixture?
No, it's out of the can.
Okay.
Yeah, the
'Cause, I mean,
Yorkshire
I
There's
have,
another
grit is,
component to tried and true. It's beeswax and
yeah,
polymerized linseed oil.
that's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
linseed oil, yeah.
yeah.
But I tell you, there's very little linseed oil in it because I put it on with my hand, and I just rinse my hands off, and it's gone.
Yeah.
I don't use any soap or any solvent or anything else.
Actually, they even say rub it in, moisturizes your hands.
Yeah.
It's that good.
I do have, if nobody else is going, I do have a couple of things that I will share, and they're pretty elementary. I use in my workshop, but one of them is this depth gauge that I made. Just made it a couple of days ago. And I have another one too. But the depth gauge I use to determine how deep in the bowl I want to go. Here's a little bowl here, and let's say I want to go this deep and just release the wing nut on it. And okay, I want to go this deep, and measure it to the inside of the bowl. Yeah, I could do the old finger on the
Dabble.
pencil type thing. I could do that. And there's some metal depth gauges that you can use. But I like this one because if I say, okay, I still need to go that much deeper, I can lock this down with that wing nut and it's tight. And then take a little bit more out of the bowl, a little bit more, and using this, it's already locked down. So it works for me. And
That's a good
pretty
one.
pretty cheap to make because I already had a spare piece of wood, and this is birch um, wood and dowels. I already have in my workshop, and the hardware was maybe 30 cents or something. So you can buy these at various places, I guess, or something similar. But it really works for me. I keep it when I'm hollowing the inside of the bowl. I do a check. Had
You
to do
didn't make it
this.
out of olive wood?
Yeah, I suppose you could. This one is birch. I have another one that's made out of maple, but um,
I've got a bunch of those, and I'm wondering, was that an Ed Jones project at one time where
I
y'all
don't
got together and made them?
I don't know, but it's simple to make. On
Yeah.
this side here, you just create that um, little spur, if you will, and that tightens down with that wing nut. So anyway, it's it certainly works for me, and I've
Yeah.
shown
I
it
use mine
to
all the time.
yeah, I've
That's
shown
great.
it to several people that come to my workshop, and they get that light bulb moment, and I'm gonna go make one of those. So
Well, hey, Mark, you remember last year you helped me make one, so I use it all
oh
the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's one thing I wanted to share. Another thing that um, for when I use CA glue. Um, This is a product that I buy uncured. Rick's going to laugh, I know, because I talk about this occasionally, but this stuff really works. You can use acetone, yes, on taking stuff off. But I find that when I get it on my fingers, if I use acetone, it makes my skin crack and just feels awful. But I'm not sure what's in this stuff. It's not listed on the bottle, but it takes that CA glue off very easily, and it doesn't cause any harm to my skin. But this little bottle, it's only $4, and it comes in this handy little dispenser thing, and just use a few drops at a time. So I buy this at Woodworker Source, and it's available other places too. So it's just a one of those little things that I do, and maybe others might be interested in that. So,
So what are you smiling about, Rick?
Because I laugh at him about it. He buys it every time he goes down to Woodworker's Source. And I bought a bottle when I went down there and glued my fingers together one day. And
Purposely.
that was what I used to free my fingers in. So I have to stop laughing at him. So go for it, Mark.
another thing I wanted to share, I save a lot of these plastic containers, and Steve knows about this, but the soup comes in this or potato salad or something like that. I save these when I'm finished with a product, take it out to the workshop, and when I'm mixing the resin, I just use this container and then just toss it out. I don't have to worry about cleaning um, with mineral spirits or denatured alcohol or something like that. I don't want to waste the time with that. So it's a little handy tip. And the other thing, the last thing I want to say, I also save a lot of these plastic containers on something like fruit or cut up melon or something comes in these containers. So I use these to make my own little strips. like this, little plastic strips. And I suppose you could buy sheets of these, but why do that when they're already free, or I'm going to toss them out? So what I do with this is if I have a bowl, this is a good example right here. A bowl that I was turning had a big knot right in this side here. If I want to put some resin in there, it's too big to put turquoise or something like that in there. So put some resin in there. I create a little dam. Use your imagination a little bit. A little dam like that. And then put hot glue around the edges of it and around the bottom. That enables me to fill the resin in there, because I want the resin to be proud on that hole. It doesn't work if you make it level like this and put the resin down in there, because you end up almost always with a dip in the hole there. So to make it proud, I put that on there and like that, and then I have the resin sticking out further than the bowl. And I did that piece that I did for Rick, if you remember that. That's how I did that particular piece. So anyway, I'm always trying to find cheaper ways to do things, more efficient. But it's the sources of materials is readily available right in front of me. I'd throw stuff like that in the trash all the time. So just wanted to share some of those little tips and tricks.
Thank you,
Gary
Mark.
Frank used to take all of the stuff that the sugar and stuff came in for his oatmeal at home with him to mix stuff up in, remember? But then he poured some stuff in it and it melted away. It went all over the
Yeah,
place.
one of those little containers that I think brown sugar or something came in it, and I mixed up the I think it was 5-minute epoxy, or I'm not sure which one it was, but I mixed it up, and then I looked down and I saw it was I saw some of it on my bench top. Fortunately, I had a piece of cardboard underneath, but I thought, wow, what a slob, man! You really missed the bowl here. And then I picked it up, and the whole bottom fell out. So it had melted the bottom of that container. So it was a lesson learned. But there are different kinds of plastic, and I don't know the names of the plastic. They're um, TPE, or I don't know, something like that. But anyway, that was a learned experience there. So yeah,
And
you're right, Rick.
Mark, I had that same learning experience, except I have a rule at our house that any containers that are going to the garbage are given to me, and then either I garbage them or I put them into use. And Sue has, I believe, yogurt frequently. So she has these yogurt containers, and I started collecting them. And I was using them the same way you were, but I did some tests first. So I took this, all the same brand, all the same looking containers, everything matched. And I had a stack of them, probably 10 or 12 high. And I put something in one of them, and I don't remember what it was, but I had the same experience after I had used one successfully. Of course, I have so many that I don't try cleaning them up. I just throw them away. So I'm on another one, brand new, fresh, clean, and put whatever the stuff was in it, set it on my workbench. And again, luckily I had it on a piece of cardboard, but it melted the bottom out of it and ran all over. So even though the containers looked the same and they were the same brand product, they were different materials.
Geez.
But lucky for me, it was just a small amount of epoxy, and I didn't waste all that much of it. I ended up just throwing all of that, including the cardboard, in the trash when it finally hardened. But yeah, you're right.
Couldn't you wait for it to harden and bring it to the club meeting and show it as one of your not so successful?
I have a couple of examples in my workshop of mistakes I've made, and people come over to my workshop, and I point up on the wall and say, "See that?" And then I tell the story, in hopes of, besides a little bit of humor, but also to maybe they will gain a little bit of knowledge, about how to do what to do, So anyway. Oh, that's
Thanks.
all I had.
Anybody else have anything this morning? If not, thank you all for joining very much. I appreciate your participation.
Thank you, Bruce.
We look forward to seeing you all again.
All right, man.
Absolutely. This is awesome.